ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Episode 30, Check the Wire. Northernlion, Ryan, Gary, Laterno, myself, DanGheesling, 30 episodes. What's going on, Ryan?
No one ever thought we would make it this far. Episode 1, I remember, aren't they going to run out of stuff to talk about by like week 3? No, we're just, there's always new stuff on the horizon, and we can also always lean back on the, I got a lot of space, followed by I'm working too hard oscilloscope that we go through all the time.
I will say, I think this episode, we will not have a lack of topics. I think that last week there was a lot going on. But before that, what's going on IRL or RG?
Just basically putting the brakes on everything as we get ready for the arrival of the little one. It's like 2.5 weeks away-ish right now, which is really, really soon.
2.5 weeks could be a week. It could be tomorrow.
Exactly. It could be over the course of this podcast, which would be really good for getting the viral clip for sure.
Kate walks in, she's like, gives you your own emoji.
I'll be like, hey, just wait 10 minutes. We're doing Q&A.
But I think we got a lot to talk about, so I don't want to dally the dillies. Let's get right into it. I think you had some big dubs and some stuff.
Dude, it was a huge week. Yeah, it was a crazy week.
Hit us with the hard dubs.
So I'm gonna say that there's 2 big hard dubs and 1 soft dub. The first big hard dub is, I talked about it last week, but I got invited to stream the Twitch Chat's Choice Awards, which happened like literally, I don't know, like less than 8 hours after the last Check the Wire. So it was really good. For context, it was kind of like it was like a fluffy award show. It wasn't stuffy like, we're giving away the Tonys or something like that. It was, best trailer, best game of quarantine, who's the coolest mascot in games. So it was all entertainment driven, and there were maybe 12 co-streamers who were all involved with it as co-hosts, and ended up being a lot of fun. But I'm most excited about the fact, 2 things. One is like production did an awesome job. Very smooth, very easy. Like we always say, like all we have to do is show up. That's the dream come true. And secondly, I was able to kind of build a moment on the show, which made it a really cool part. So my category was like the best single player game announcement. So I had my chat. I was like, hey, we're all going to, when I get on there, I'm going to tell them that we're all going to vote for Resident Evil. But when I say that, what I actually want you guys to do is vote for Demon's Souls, so that it would be like a moment where we could create some laughter and some humor by having it look like my chat betrayed me in a big way. And it worked out. 94% of people voted for Demon's Souls, and it was a fun clip, and everybody had a good time.
So where did that idea come from? To not only think about that and then to execute on it?
I have this instinct for sure that's like, I don't always like to be the guy that brings the chaos, but I was watching the show and I was like, everybody's playing it super straight. So I'm going to be the guy who brings a little bit of chaos to it. I just have that, I don't know, instinct, I guess. It's the same in Champions of Fire 2 when, everybody was being nice and polite, and then they were like, how are you doing? And I was like, well, I forget what I said, but it was like basically insinuating I've been waiting for like 2 hours to get on the stage, just adding a little bit of a dynamic to it, So I think that it basically just came from me watching everybody else play it straight and be like, I think we can do something a little bit interesting here. And I mean, that's about it, but it worked out, and I was happy it worked out.
So I was trying to watch it, and like I tuned in when you told me to, and there was like, you were like, you weren't going to be on for a little longer. So I had no idea what happened. I watched the clip, and like, so I went through it fresh. I didn't know what happened, but I watched the clip, and I'm like, this is like, he just got the biggest debate of all time. And then you hit us with it. Like after the fact, you're like, no, he set it up. And I'm like, I just felt like you had an orange and you squeezed the orange. And then there was like a couple of it went viral, right? I saw it on Instagram.
Oh, really?
Twitch's Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, it got the Twitch like main socials picked it up, and then it was #1 on live stream fail like within 2 hours of it happening. It's just, I mean, we talk about it all the time. We inspire each other in some way. It's like when you get the opportunity to do this, you could play it straight, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But also, if you could just put in a little nugget of like hey, you know, we're doing something special. I'm really trying to make sure, like, my job is not just to show up and read the script. My job is to like try to make it exciting and make it entertaining for people. So I think that's basically the inspiration for that.
So when I watch it, I'm like, if you see that moment and you kind of see the moment, you know, of comedy in it, I felt like it was a good job for maybe someone who didn't know who you were. Like that was a good glimpse of what you would expect in your show, not just like, you know, there wasn't a whole lot to delineate from other people just reading, you know, like, oh,
Yeah.
hey, like, cool, I probably won't check this person out, no offense, but like them, they're like, all right, this guy's got something going. I didn't watch any of the other people hosting, but I thought that was a cool moment. And I felt like a little betrayed because I'm like, dude, he set it up. I'm like, that's like levels of like galaxy braining to make the most of your moment on the stage. Did you, while that was going on, did you notice any, like, is there any tactical results from doing that? Like, can you be like, oh, I got a bump here or anything like that?
Not that I've seen like at all, but it's just, I mean, like, again, we've talked about it before. I think anytime you have the ability to kind of create a clip like that, it's gravy, you know? The people that are already watching on your community are like, oh, that was like a fun moment to be a part of. And then, you know, people that have never seen you before, even if they're not gonna come to your channel and watch, they might be familiar with the clip now. The same way, you know, I'm familiar with some clips on Twitch. Like I've never seen now I'm like, who is it? But I've screwed up my own anecdote. But you know the one where the woman is playing The Last of Us, and she's like, oh, it's a cute squirrel, and
Yeah.
and I'm like, you know, I now know who that is, although the name is escaping me at the moment. I've never watched her content, but at the same time now I'm like, oh, I know, you know, if I ever see her at an event, I can be like, oh, it's a cool clip. You know, it raises your profile to some extent, I guess.
Well, I think the cool thing too about what you did is like it was like a value add to the show. It's not like, oh, hey, look at me. It was like, hey, whether someone checks you out or not, someone's watching the show is gonna laugh at that, which I think is cool. You know, which is why I think, you know, a lot of the times when you bring people onto a project or a show, you want them to like make the show better, and I think you did that, which was cool.
Yeah, it sounds like cynical, like, oh, I'm moded, or I made it to like be self-interested and elevate my platform above the show, but it was rather like, you know, I just want to make the show as interesting as possible. Because you know, we watch these shows, and sometimes they're great, and sometimes they can get a little dry. So to throw in a little extra, you know, you don't get a lot of opportunities like that, really. So to have the ability to just put a little sauce on it was kind of like a nice way to give back to the for having the opportunity in the first place.
Well, it's kind of like you don't remember, what is it, the Grammys. You just remember like the Miley Cyrus and the guy from Growing Pains' son. What's that guy's name? Robin Thicke.
Oh, Robin Thicke.
You remember
yeah.
those moments, or like the J-Lo, you know, with the, you know.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
that's what you remember, and I think that's cool to like to create that. Because I think in itself, the award show is just kind of like, hey, it's something fun to do, but it's not something, you know. Well, cool. So,
well, you had your own thing as well on Saturday that was kind of similar.
Yeah, so because I think we each got a couple dubs, but so on Sunday, which is typically like on my end is like a no-go. You know, I'm not doing it. But long story short, I did, you know, broadcasted this Tarkov tournament put on by Pastilli, who's, you know, put in a ton of work. I was shocked at, he had like 100, you know, moderators. There's just so much that went into it. And I took it kind of serious on the preparation. Like I'd never done something like this before, but I wanted to go in and, like you said, like just provide value. Like my whole thing was, I'm going to be in front of a little bit maybe more serious audience. So it was like, for me, it was like the opposite. It was the time to not cause chaos. I didn't want to detract anything from the competition. I just wanted to add value by like, hey, I wonder what this person's doing. So I did a little bit of research on the front end, and I ran it by, I think I told this already, but ran it by Pastilli. I'm like, hey, put this Google form together. Let's send it. I'm going to send it to all the competitors to fill out so they could say, hey, where they're from, what their favorite gun is, so that I knew going into it, like, you want to have something to like build a storyline. But just to give people insight, if you're doing something like this, I didn't say, hey, Pastilli, do this. I'm like, can I do this? Because he's got enough going on to like run the thing and get everything lined up. I'm like, let me do the whole thing and it doesn't sound like a lot of work, and it's really not, but it's different. Like, for example, if you're part of any group, you add some value in a lot of different ways. I'm like, let me do the whole thing. I'll do the Google form. I'll reach out to everyone, you know, tag whatever I can. I didn't want to make more work for him. I just wanted to make the tournament better. So actually, it went really well, and it was really easy to work with him. And it was kind of, we talked about it last week, doing something like to stretch a little bit. And so for me, it's different, right? So like, you know, I'm kind of like the chaos theory guy. So like I like taking a step back and adding value in that way. The thing that was funny to me though, that I didn't expect, is that, you know, I drink my water like I normally did. Like, you know, like,
yeah,
I do it 100 times a show and didn't think anything of it. And like, that was the clip that, like, you know, it got a lot of sauce. People were coming in the next day, be like, hey, you drank the water like that. But my whole point was not to do that. You know what I mean? So it's just funny how when you go into something like, hey, let me make this the best that I can for the event, not what I can extract from it, it kind of worked out. So it was fun, and I would do it again. And it's kind of one of those things like, what do you get out of being the host or a co-host on the Twitch award show? What do you get out of being a, you know, co-caster in tournament? That's not how I approach it. I'm just like, you do these kind of things enough, like all that other stuff will follow, which was cool.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I watched a little bit of it, and I mean, you know my opinion on Tarkov. It's not my favorite game to watch, but I thought the dynamic that you and Pestily had was really good, and I definitely picked up. I was like, he's playing the role of like the sportscaster. He's not being the guy who's gonna, you know, start asking Pestily, you know, what his favorite fast food chicken nugget is or something like that. But I definitely agree that it's like, I think if you approach it with, you know, hey, I want to be credited as this, you know, make sure you have like my social tag under my name or under my picture, like at all times, I think is backwards. I think you the best way to do it is to build it holistically as like, if I make this show actively as entertaining as I can, or this opportunity as actively entertaining as I can, even if it doesn't necessarily cause like a huge capture of the audience to come to me, you know, you're going to be more likely to be invited to that stuff in the future. People who are watching it that might watch other people are just going to have a more positive opinion of you in general as well by doing it that way. I think it's much better than just like, you know, I don't want to besmirch other content creators, but sometimes they just sort of show up and they're like, my role is to bring my audience and then just sort of be here, you know?
Yeah. And that's like the thing is like, what's your intent? And I feel like a lot of it is like transparent. And I'll use a couple examples, like just on my end, like if someone comes in or is a part of the community and is like, hey, I did that too on my stream. I'm like, okay, I'm probably not going to ever check out their stream. But if I find out organically they stream, they're part of the community, I'm going to go check that out. Cause there's just like that not underlying tone of like, all right, they're trying to get some out of this. And like right before the tournament went live, you know, Pestili's like doing all this stuff. He's like, hey, I don't have a tag for under your name. I'm like, dude, I don't care, because I really didn't care. It's just like, I think it all matters is what's your intent. Are you going in to like make something better? Or are you going in trying to extract as much value as possible? And there's situations where you can be like, yeah, I'm going to come extract the heck out of this thing, like, because it's appropriate. And I think you kind of got to gauge that. But I think there's also something to be said too. I don't want to gloss over it. And I'm not telling someone to do this to you, but if someone came to you and was like, hey, on, you know, the week of repentance, on the 5th day, I want to do a speed run tournament with you and 4 other people. All you have to do is show up. It's going to be, you're more likely to do it than if someone's coming to be like, hey, on the 5th day when repentance, the DLC for Isaac comes out, do you want to put together a speed running tournament? You'd be like, no, I don't want to do it. You know, like you just, but like, so there's different value adds. And for me, like Pestily is the biggest Tarkov creator. Like, so my value add is like making it easy as possible and making the show move as smooth as possible. And there's a couple times and just like little things that I tried to pick up on, like I could see his camera, and if I saw him look away, I knew he was handling something. And to me, all right, that's a cue to like talk about something more, you know? So it's just like little things like that. But I just feel like intent and your mindset going into something in a collaboration is so important, because like you said, it could be the difference in like developing chemistry and doing a lot of things together and be like, man, this person was a jerk and they didn't really, you know, they just did the bare minimum. So, but to circle back, so, you know, and the other thing too, which, you know, I didn't expect, I had no expectation. There were a lot of people. There's like 45,000 people, I think, at the max watching the tournament. So it's, you know, there's just like, I'm going into it, I'm not thinking how many people are going to watch this. I'm like, let's just do the best job. So to go from that to your Tony Hawk experience.
Yeah.
So tell us about that, W.
Well, we've been talking for like a couple of weeks that there have been like these dream sponsorship things that have come up. And this is the one that I had to sit on until last Friday when I could actually be like, hey, the best sponsored offer of all time came in. And so the context for this is on Friday, I had a sponsor stream to play Tony Hawk. And then it's already amazing. You know, like without even worrying about the background stuff, which was super easy. They were like, yeah, like just go live and like tweet that you're live, play it for 2 hours, and you're good. And I was like, that's already awesome. And then they were like, hey, do you think you would want to have like Twitch front page promotion during it? And I was like, yeah, I mean, if it could work, that would be awesome. So they set up front page promotion on Twitch during it as well. And then my manager / publicist messaged me like right after the Chance Choice Awards on Thursday and was like, the stream was really good today, but I bet tomorrow you're going to like go to the moon.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. I don't have any expectations for that. I knew the stream was going to be okay because it's an anticipated game to begin with. But then when it went live, it was like I was live with Fall Guys for an hour. Then we switched to Tony and we got the front page and it was like 4,000 viewers to 26,000 viewers like instantaneously. And I'll admit that's where I started. I did the opposite where I was like, I started to try to capture. Yeah. I was like, hey, while you're here, follow. And I'll like turn it into a joke about how like it's great timing because I'm going away for a month anyway. So I'm not going to, spam your homepage. But yeah, it was really just like a dream scenario. You can't ask for much that's better than that. A game that I played a lot of as a kid, very much looking forward to. And then on top of that, they're like, hey, how would you like to be on the main page for, the largest live streaming video game service of all time? So and I was like, yeah, that sounds great.
I don't know your numbers or anything. Was that your biggest, most watched stream of all time in solo?
So yeah. And it's a weird eclectic mix, but like Tony Hawk was at like 26. And then the Rebirth launch day or Afterbirth launch day was like 18,000 or something.
Okay.
And then Team Unity Terraria, when we had that front page promotion for squad streaming in day one, was like 12,000.
Okay.
And then 8 years ago, the Titanfall beta was like 10,000.
That's that is a random mix. So, okay, so you're streaming Fall Guys, and then like when it started to pog up, why did you make that face in the camera? I missed that. What like what are you going through in your head? Because if you have no expectations, you're like, maybe it'll 10 or something. I don't know what your expectations are, but what are you thinking when it goes to the moon?
I don't know. It's the same show, basically. I will say, I think I wouldn't say we have different philosophies in this, but I remember as I was doing it, I was thinking back to like when you got hosted by Rivals after the Tarkov Rivals, and you were like, I'm gassed, but I'm going to keep going because this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity or once in a year opportunity. I was like, I told my wife I'm going to be done at 4. So, and she's going to go live at 4. So when it got to be like 4:10, I was like, I got to go,
So you left it. So did you leave?
Well, like as soon as when the front page promotion ended, it went down to like, I don't know. It went down low, probably not low, but lower. It was like, maybe like 8,000 or 9,000. But then it was a good opportunity as well because Kate was playing Among Us and she kept a lot of viewers for that as well. So, it was more like, I didn't deviate from my normal routine. And I think that there's a missed opportunity there. But as we've talked about many times, I'm also like, I'm pinched.
Yeah.
Like heavily, as you can tell, heavily pinched right now. So, but it's a good opportunity for sure. And it was just like, it's one of those things where it's just lightning in a bottle. Like, I don't know how you can kind of create that in the future, but I definitely, if I could, and maybe this is just a way of me encapsulating it. I feel like things are, there's momentum that's gleaned from that. Like we did the Chance Choice Awards. And I mean, this is really quick turnaround, obviously. We did the Chance Choice Awards and I really gave it my all and also, gave some daps to production who never gets credit whenever any of these events take place, even though there's like 12 people in the background that are like, manning the switchboard to keep things going. And then, we had the Tony Hawk thing on Friday that went amazingly. And then, lo and behold, you get invited to Rivals on this upcoming Friday. I'm not saying there's necessarily a correlation there. And then there's also like other opportunities that have come up. And I feel like it's the sort of like, it's a momentum that gets built from actually treating these like you're trying to add some, like you said, like trying to add some value to it and make the show entertaining instead of just being like, I'm just here to like show up and, for my 5-minute segment, they'll spam my emotes and chat.
Yeah, no. And it's like the fact that I'm sure that you've always been on their map, but I'm sure the fact that you showed up, you did a great job, you're professional, you haven't like besmirched like the production or anything. Like they're like, yeah, this is probably someone we want to elevate because he's a good ambassador of Twitch, does a great job, provides value, versus I think we talked about on Team Unity about, people that are in Rivals, and, we talked about it, is there's like a Twitch Rivals Discord, and like everyone's beating down the door to get in this Fall Guys tournament, and, they picked you because, you did a great job. And then the flip side, like we've been in a situation where like the Twitch Rivals Discord after an event, people are saying this is the worst event ever, I'm like, this is someone's
and in the back
job.
channel, the admins are like,
yeah. Instead, like I would approach and be like, hey, what can I do better next time? Is there anything I can help? Or if they ask for feedback, because they asked for feedback, how could this be better? Like, just don't deliver it like a jerk. If you had a like sincere gripe with it, be like, hey, like this could maybe work a little better next time. But I don't know. It just comes down to, like, to me, it's not basic, but I feel like basic common sense about treating things like they should be treated and kind of be nice to people.
I don't know how many times we talked about it specifically, but like every time I've gone to like an in-person event, I'm like, I'm going to make a habit of showing up on time, and I'm going to be like nice and respectful. And, sometimes things are not super pleasant. Like there have been productions that I've been a part of where, you're like, you got 8 hours of dead time doing nothing when you're like, I don't need to be here at all. Like I need to be here for what? So they could take like a headshot at some point in the next 8 hours and then let me go. What do you say? You say, thanks for the opportunity. You guys are doing a great job. And then maybe they give you a survey after and you're like, I think this could be worked on. I can't understand the philosophy or psychology that goes into like right after the event when you're mad, you're like, I'm going to let these people know that I'm furious about it, especially because like with Rivals, like you get paid no matter what. Like we're doing Rivals on Friday, we want to do well and our expectation is to do well, but we also understand, I think, that it's more about building the entertainment within the product. And then maybe if something goes wrong, we go in the back channel and be like, this organizational thing is frustrating, but blah, blah, blah. And then you put it in the survey. But for the love of God, you don't go into the feedback channel and go like, I hate this. I'm like, you got paid like hundreds of dollars to play the game you already like playing, and you were working at the same time. Like,
yeah, I don't know if it's like self-awareness or just, I don't know, like privilege or whatever, but the way I look at it is, I even thanked you last night or this morning, like, hey dude, thanks for inviting me to Rivals, because you don't have to do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they invited you and then you got to pick. It's not like, oh, just because you got invited, where's my invite? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't look at stuff that way. And I think it's helpful if you like you don't expect things. You kind of, if it happens, it happens. If not, like, I don't know. I just think that could help a lot of people of like, you don't have to be invited to Rivals. It's not like a lot of people would not die, but they'd give up a lot to just have the opportunity. So just, I don't know. I don't know if it's being gracious or just grateful, but something is like misaligned there. But I guess on the flip side, it makes it easier for people like you and I that just kind of show up and do like, hey, we'll do this. You're nice and respectful. It's like, you look like,
I hope so. Or maybe they're watching and they're going like, oh, these guys are so full of themselves. They think they're so professional. I don't want them in the show. They got an ego. But, I definitely don't agree with the expression that like half of anything is just showing up. But I'm like, I mean, to get to the full of anything, you got to kind of show up. So, and I'm surprised that oftentimes that doesn't seem to happen. But anyway.
And on mine, it goes along. It just goes a long way. If it's done that to reverse me, if I see someone like kind of going out of their way to like be on time or like add value or be like, hey, why don't we do this? Or let's do that. Like, I'm like, I really appreciate that because it's kind of rare. Not everyone is like that. So when I see that, like, I kind of identify, be like, yeah, I want to work with this person in the future because like they kind of bring something to the table, like something. But I want to circle back real quick, because we talked about like extracting value and there's appropriate times to do it. What made you be like, all right, hey, how can I make the most of this? Because on Twitch, when you hosted the Twitch thing, you're like, okay, how can I make this the best? And on the flip side with Tony Hawk, you're like, all right, hey, this is, how can I get something back from this besides,
yeah.
you know?
Well, I guess my perspective on it is I really think like, and it depends on the situation. There's exceptions to the rule, in my opinion, but I really think that like shout outs and, you know, like a lower Chiron that has like a social tag or something like that. I think that it's like an ineffective style of marketing. I think I don't want to call it junk mail, but I think it's like sending flyers out into people's mailboxes. Like 99.9% of them are going to end up in, you know, the recycling bin, right? So I genuinely can't think of a situation in my entire life where I've been like watching a TV show or like something that's co-hosted on Twitch and been like, oh, you know, this person did really well. I'm going to go follow them on Twitch or on Twitter or whatever. I'm sure it's happened, but I think the numbers are like pretty small. So for that stuff, I'm like, I just want to make the show as entertaining as possible, because I mean it only benefits you. It's more fun for you when it's entertaining. It makes the product better. It maybe makes you more likely to be invited for opportunities like that in the future. However, if my stream's on the front page and everybody that's watching is already on my channel, that's where I'm like, all you got to do is click a button if you enjoy the content. And also the other thing is like, especially for streaming, I'm like, being on the Chat's Choice Awards is not like a representation of the kind of content that you make. Like, I think it's kind of maybe not a bad attitude, but it's idealistic to be like, I'm going to tell like one joke and then people are going to be like, I'm going to watch that guy 12 hours a day, right? So in this situation, it's more like I'm doing the thing that I always do. So if you like it, this is a good opportunity to just, you know, try, you know, do the hard ask. You don't do the hard ask that often. So you do the hard ask, and occasionally you maybe drop like a, hey, you know, creator code Northernlion, and then, you know, you get the people, you strike while the iron's hot.
So, and then, so for you, it was like a diligent thing. Like you're like, okay, hey, I'm going to, like I did it once. And then like, you're like, all right, hey, every so often you have like an internal timer. I haven't said it in a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe like half an hour later, I'll say it again or something. Yeah. But
what was the, and I got to imagine from your community that never hears that ever, like, oh, follow or whatever. Like, what was there, like, what was the reception like?
It was fine. People were like stoked that the viewer count was so high. I mean, that's basically like 90% of the messages were like, what, viewer count so high?
Yeah.
And then the other 10% of messages were like song lyrics from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. But I will say, like, analytically, because we're kind of in the lab right now, just that stream, I did get like 4,900 or 5,000 new followers, which I am at like on the average NLSS or stream, I get like, I don't know, like 20. I'm kind of like, sometimes it's like 200 or 300 or something like that. But you know, this was like huge to get a little jolt. Now I don't think follower numbers necessarily like, it's like YouTube subscribers, you know, is a nice number to see, but the most important number is definitely like the concurrent viewer count and the subscriber count, I guess, at the end of the day. But it's still, you were like, oh, that's nice that, you know, I don't know, maybe like 10% of the people that watched it were like, I'm going to follow this guy.
Yeah, that's a really, I mean, so I looked at it as 25,000 people watching. You got to think 5,000, Sarah, is your normal community. So if you're taking, you said you had how many people? 5,000?
25, 20. Oh, followers? Yeah, like 5,000.
So what is that? So you captured, I mean, captured, it sounds minkus, but you know, 25% of the new people watching felt compelled enough to click a follow button. So whatever that's conversion rate, that's got to be off the charts. You know, I'm like,
yeah, I mean, there's people that come in and out over the course of it. So I think it's probably less than a quarter, but still, I mean, it's better than usual.
Yeah. But, and even if we say, okay, of those 5,000 people, like say what's 1% of that, 50?
Yeah.
So you probably gained, let's just conservative, 50 new concurrent viewers. Like, yeah, 1%, which is amazing.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was good. I'm definitely, you know, I'm cognizant of the fact that you don't get too many opportunities like that. Like growth on Twitch is super hard because of discoverability, right? The only known pathway is like you start working with somebody who's already big, or you get into a game that takes off. You're kind of like, you're always piggybacked either to another creator or to a game, or you're like the unicorn that is like like Co-Carnage or something like that people just like make a routine of watching and love watching. But that's a pretty rare situation, I think. So really for me, it was like the philosophy was, you might get this opportunity once every 5 years or something like that. So, why strike while the iron's hot? Why not sell out just a little bit?
Yeah, well, but and I don't know the whole story with him, but I also know Co-Carnage. Didn't he stream for like 1,000?
7 years?
Yeah, so it's not even like, just to clarify, if you're like, I wouldn't call that a unicorn. I call that like someone working their face off.
Yeah, no, I agree with that for sure.
So that was good. And then so you talked about leading the Twitch Rivals invite, and so just to circle back, do you think? I mean, if you had to empirically say yes or no with a water gun to your head, you got invited to Rivals because of your performance on the award show, would you say yes or no?
I would probably say no. Mm-hmm. But it wouldn't be like a 90-10 no. It would be like a 60-40 no.
Okay.
Because I think like my philosophy with Twitch, especially since like, I don't know, like March or April, when I got like the expecting dad energy, right, was like, I know as soon as we get some opportunities, all you got to do is, bring your A game. And there's a good chance. I'm not saying like, oh, we're going to make it impossible for you not to invite me to anything in the future because you're going to want to have me for anything. Like, that's a little too self-aggrandizing.
But you're not, saying that.
I'm saying I know that, like, I know the community's going to come out for sure because they've always come out for stuff like this. And I know like all I got to do is focus on putting on a good show and then like being professional. And there's a good chance we could ingratiate ourselves there and be kind of like somebody that's a go-to. Like, I'm jealous of Justin. He gets tapped for Rivals all the time. Why does he get tapped for Rivals all the time? Because he's been in a lot of Rivals and he shows up and he does well and he's entertaining. He's a nice guy, right? So I think like, I don't think that's what led to the Rivals invite. I think what led, it's maybe a coincidence, and what also led to the Rivals invite is me bugging my partner manager constantly for everything and being like, I want to be a part of this. Not in a rude way, but like, not like when's Rivals, but like, hey, just so you know, like, I would love to be a part of Rivals. And like, I think you're going to enjoy what our community brings to it.
Which is good. And something else I talked about last week, and I think you and I don't talk about enough. And I don't think you and I have maybe even really talked how much, and I don't know how much you do this, but like asking, right? I asked Pastilli like a month ago to get involved. I didn't know what variation. It ended up being way more than I thought, which was good. You asked to get in Rivals versus like, sometimes people say, well, I didn't get invited. Well, I mean, and I know there's a way to do it, like to ask in a professional way. And there's a way not to do it, but also like, so you're actively pursuing that in a respectful way. Like, I'll throw another one out there, like, with Spelunky too. Like, I'm not sitting back waiting for Derek Yu to contact me. I'm just like, I don't know what the protocol is. I don't know what they're doing, but hey, I'm going to send a message to the publisher, be like, hey, look, I don't know what's going on. If there's any, things, whether early access or any kind of promotion, I said, I'd love to be involved, and that's it. I'm not going to like email them and bug them every day, but I'm starting to do that more for things that I'm naturally interested in and not asking for anything, right? I'm not saying like, hey, like pay me. I'm asking for like, hey, if there's something, I'd love to be involved. And if they don't choose me, or if there is something, like, at least I know I gave it a crack at the bat, versus like, well, or they could be like, well, we didn't know you played Spelunky. I just don't want that scenario to happen. Is there anything like else in recent history? Cause I feel like that's maybe not, I don't want to speak for, maybe not your forte, something you do a lot. Is there anything that else that you've asked to be a part of or asked to get involved in?
Not really, but it's still a big change for me because, and I probably said this on like 25% of the shows that we've done, but like when I used to get intro to like the person I'm working with at Twitch, I would say like, you can pitch me, but I'm going to say no. Like, I'm just like, I'm doing my own thing. I'm Sisyphus every day. I'm pushing the rock up and then it rolls down and I get it tomorrow. This year I was like, hey, like the philosophy has totally changed there because we've been a part of these events and it's been like a real highlight. So we're going to like, please pitch me on everything. And I'm going to say yes to like way more things than I otherwise would have. And I think we finally, we got that opportunity. And I don't want to say the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but you're like, if you have the opportunity to invite, so if you put yourself in their shoes, if you have the opportunity to invite somebody who's like actively pursuing being a part of it, or maybe somebody that wants to be a part of it, but hasn't made their interest known, is kind of like, an easy choice,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's like you talk about adding value. You just made whoever the community managers or whatever, you made them do less work because they're like, hey, like I want to go in, or
Yeah,
put me in,
exactly.
which is cool, But that's something I'm like picking and choosing. Like when so I'm like, yeah, I want to be a part of this. And and I think part of it, it's a willingness to be able to take an L, and I don't care, but I'm now like picking and choosing. Like, hey, if there's something going on that I want to be a part of, I'll say, what's the worst that can happen? They say no or ghost you. Okay, you end up in the same spot you were had you not asked. Um,
Yeah.
so, but I do think you brought up an interesting point. The key is how you ask and the tone in which you ask. But the other thing I tried to do when I did that, just to give more context, when I reached out to Blitzworks.
Oh, Blitworks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Blitworks. I linked my Twitch channel and YouTube channel to make it even easier to like see, hey, look, there is Spelunky content here or whatever. I never assume people know anything, so I'm just trying to like. On the flip side, we've talked about in the past, if you get like a blind key to a game with no screenshot, no like bullet points, you're like, I'm not playing it. So I always try to like
Yeah.
put myself in their shoes. What's gonna make it the easiest possible way to get them the information to either say yes or no. So I try to do that. So I don't know if that helps anyone, but yeah. So outside of that, I had another small W, and it was good. It was really unexpected, but I've been posting more TikToks lately.
Oh,
Hit a 500,000 talk of just like kind of out of
no.
nowhere,
Let
and
me
then
let me check here so that I can get some context myself.
and then from that, and this is the kind of stuff I get really excited about. One person on 2 or 3 days later came into the Tarkov Twitch segment like, hey, I found you on TikTok. And like to me, you're like, well, it's 500,000 people. How can you get excited about one new person? I'm like, that person I would never necessarily be able to bring into the community. So I was fired up about that. And to even go one step further to peel the mask back even more. So Tyler, the producer, who I've like kind of like keep giving him the keys to the castle, he's creating one TikTok for me a day on the account, and I'm doing one. So we're posting 2 a day. He made that one. I'm like,
Yo,
that's even like more sauce, which is,
this is let's count the potatoes.
yeah.
This one. Yeah.
So we get some
Okay.
easy clap in the chat for Tyler.
Have you look, I agree. Like I think there's it not even like value analytically. Like one person is one person.
Yeah.
Like that's an individual, obviously, but it's not like the kind of thing that's going to make or break you,
Right.
obviously. But I understand it's just fun to have one start running too,
Yeah.
and then you check it every hour and be like, holy
Yeah.
crap, And the fact that it's crazy that like a good day on Twitch might be like plus 100 concurrent viewers or plus 200. On TikTok is like you're in the swamp and then you're like on Mount Everest. It hits numbers so quickly. But do you have I don't even know if you can talk about the monetization side of TikTok yet, or
Yeah, so there I don't check it, but there is now something on the back end. You have to go through like settings. There was like, hey, we invite you to monetize your TikToks. Do you want to do it? I said yes. And then on the back end, there's like a daily, hey, here's how much you made. I don't know what I can talk about. I can share with you in the back channel, but it's not, it's like it's starting to make money, but it's like early days of YouTube. But I do want to clarify.
oh, so like
like
$100 CPM.
No, it's like, hey, what do you got in your pocket right now? Maybe a couple coins. Which I don't care. I just wanted to do it to test it. The one thing I will say as a caveat is that I still post everything. So Tyler will create it, and I'm like, okay, this is something I would do. Then I post it, because I think that's really important for me. Is like I never want someone else to post something that I don't approve. So I'm always the person, and it'll always be like that pushes publish. Just because I want people to know, like, hey, look, I'm not. To me, that's still like the personal touch of like, hey, if I'm responding to you, it's me. Or hey, if a TikTok goes out, I may not have physically created it, but I'm like endorsing it, because I don't ever want to be in a position, number one, where people think that I'm not producing the content, but two, in the off chance that something does not align with how I feel or what I talk about, that goes out, I'm not going to blame Tyler or whoever. It's my fault, and you can't really walk that back if that happens, because ultimately I'm responsible for it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So yes,
I would like to get back into it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like,
I knew when I dropped the 500K, I'm like, it'll get the wheels going when he comes out of paternity. I'm like, yeah, because I'm trying to catch you. I'm still trying to catch you. So I'm like, do I tell him this or not? I'm trying to catch him.
It's hard to catch me just because we haven't had Warzone in a bit, and the Warzone clips are like, that's the difference between you and me on TikTok is Warzone. Like the two hockey puck camouflage TikToks, it represents like 50% of my channel and like 95% of my total views. So,
do you have any else for the week?
No,
it's a good week.
I'm busy. That's basically it. I mean, that's really like the only thing. And then like, I guess it's not really an L, but like it's a borderline L. Is like I'm working hard trying to manage the community's expectations of where I will be at the end of September and October. Because like people disbelieve me that I'm not gonna be around much. And again, the other thing is I can't say definitively. So I'm just, I can't say definitively how much time I'm gonna have when the baby's out, right? So I have been telling people expect nothing. And if you get very little, consider that like a bonus. But it's a kind of a constant uphill battle because, as we talked about before, there's no way to communicate with 100% of your audience at all times. So every stream, I'm like, repeating it and people are like, so just Isaac, right? And I'm like, probably no Isaac.
So this was on my list to talk about because I got hit with this news on Team Unity and I started to ask him like, okay, this is not the appropriate venue to ask you. I'm shocked. Like I'm shocked. So when you're gone, there's not, and so this is another chance to set the expectation. There's not like one video a day planned for while you're gone.
No,
you're going like radio silent.
It would be nice. And what I've heard is that you do have like downtime with a baby for sure. Like people were saying unexpectedly high amounts of downtime. It's just unpredictable. So there might, I don't know, if maybe after like a couple of weeks, I'm like, hey, I seem to get like, 2 or 3 hours a day scattered around. I could spend half an hour or 45 minutes maybe making an Isaac and putting it up or making a whatever and putting it up. But the expectation for now is possibly zero, probably zero for a while, for sure.
So as someone, just for context, let's just and if you don't know the exact number, just hit me with a close one. How many days in a row have you posted an Isaac video on your YouTube channel?
It's probably like a little over 8 years straight.
Okay. So and this is probably the only time I'm gonna put heat on you. As your friend, I was blown away. Like so if Kate has the baby tonight, there's not like 7 in the backlog or like 10 or like.
Well, there's like 6.
Okay.
But the thing is, like, there's a backlog. But the thing is, you can't like, and this is now like is spiraling a little bit. But my YouTube philosophy from like 2016 to 2019 was like, hey, don't like expand the YouTube oeuvre, just deepen it. So I would end up with like a 3-week backlog of Isaac and a 2-week backlog of Slay the Spire and like a 1-week backlog of whatever else, which is great for work-life balance because if something pops up, you just whatever, it doesn't matter at all. You got videos to come out every single day. But you lose a ton on exciting content, making stuff timely, like right after it comes out, discoverability, like making stuff that people actually like want to see, for example.
Yeah.
But so people expect like there's going to be a huge backlog. But the thing is, on YouTube now, the new philosophy is we've been redlining constantly. So every day there's Trackmania, Isaac, Fall Guys, Monster Train, Golden Goblet. 3 days a week there's GeoGuessr. And then there's the streams that happen as well. So, and occasionally we throw in like a tier list or something like that. And people are like, you probably got like a 1-month backlog. I'm like, how long do you think a day is? Like I'm working as hard as I conceivably can long-term to just get out what we're getting out right now. So the fact that you also expect a 30-day backlog on top of that is insanity. Like it's not, you want a 30-day backlog of like 3 series? That's where we get 90 videos from. So I don't understand.
So, okay. Cause this, I feel like it's an important question. So for you in your head, I get it. Like you're redlining now. So like you could either take some of the sauce off now that's going really well to get in the Isaac minds, but at some point you made the decision, hey, look, like I'm not going to continue this 8-year streak because
Yeah.
of this. Like, cause you could end like Trackmania or whatever, and maybe build a little backlog, but you're actively deciding against that. Why is that?
Yeah. Well, I think there's two things. One is kind of like I wouldn't want to call it like a coping mechanism, but it's the knowledge that is going to change. Like my life is going to change to begin with. So instead of like we're going to try to dabble and have 1 foot in the YouTube Twitch camp and 1 foot in the brand new infant that's 12 hours old camp, we're going to go both feet into the infant camp. And we'll see. We'll work backwards from there. Instead of being like, I'm going to accomplish as much of my work as possible, and then when I'm done with that, we're going to do, child rearing. We're going to do the child rearing, and then as it becomes clear, like, oh, this is not taking as much time as I thought it was, or it's going to take more time than I thought it was, we can adjust back in the other direction as a result.
That's
cool.
So
that's pretty much the philosophy there.
That's cool, and that's like, so you're essentially making an active decision that your 100% of your efforts during this time is going towards your family, and if things on the other end slow down or whatever, you're not. It doesn't matter as much to you as the other where you're putting your efforts. I think that puts it in context for a lot of people. Well, like, why isn't he doing it? Which was really surprised me, but that makes, not that you have to convince me or anyone else. The only thing that matters is how you're approaching it. But that's I think it provides some clarity to a lot of people.
There's a lot of other stuff too, like that, and this is not a decision that like I came by willy nilly. One is I would much rather set the expectation that there's going to be 0 and anything that you get is kind of like gravy than be like, oh, there's going to be an Isaac video every day, and I'm like, ah, crap, looks like there's not, so I'm going to be like super stressed out. And then the other thing is like, and this is how it's been economically for like a long time, but YouTube is always kind of like, there's like a downward pressure on YouTube over time, unless you're growing. So I am bleeding myself to grow it or keep it at like a decent level. And Twitch is just kind of like on, at least for the past few years, is kind of on like a constant light positive trend. So like, I think you lose something, don't get me wrong, if you take time off from YouTube, and if you take time off from Twitch, you lose more than you would just lose in a month. You don't just lose like a month's income or whatever. You lose momentum and yada yada. Who knows what the algorithm does, and so on and so forth. But I think that I have no doubt that the Twitch community is going to come back. Like, that's non-negotiable. YouTube, I think, will also come back. It might take a little bit, but I don't see it as being catastrophic. But I think I have low levels of anxiety about it, because I know that Twitch is going to come back, and Twitch is the bulk of the fiduciary role of this job now to begin with.
So the only put Ryan on the hot seat question for you is, so I think anyone that maybe had any questions or was not unsure, but just want to know your context about YouTube. Okay, I think very, like, everyone can understand that now. On the Twitch side, like, so you're Monday, let's just call it the NLSS, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Have you toyed with the idea at all on YouTube, downloading the MP4 of a classic and then uploading them for scheduled reruns, as just to keep
to take them from YouTube and rerun them on Twitch?
Yes. So like,
yeah. I think I will do that for sure.
Okay, cool. Because that's like, as a friend, like, that's, you're not asking advice for. I think it'd be cool. Like, it'd be cool with very limited. I know your time is this, but I think it'd be cool with very limited work on your end to do that. You know what I mean? Like, you could probably set 6 in a couple hours and be good for 2 weeks or whatever.
And then it's gonna, the beauty of that is, there's the routine of the psychology of the routine, like every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't want people to be like, oh, now that he's not here, I'm going to start watching streamer X, and then they're gone forever.
Yeah, no. Sure. And that's a part. And that's what I was thinking. Like, it's going to take some people, and chat may laugh, some people may not know you're having a baby. Like, I'm just being honest.
It's true. Yeah. It's true.
So everyone's going to be like, where is he? And then now that at least they're going to still be there to at least get the answers, and maybe like relive some old moments that were really funny, or at least have something that's there. But people are laughing like
dude, seriously. And then there's people that there's people that are like, I didn't know he was pregnant, or that he's having a baby. And then there's other people that are like, is the baby born? And I'm like, you think that I wouldn't mention that? They in like every avenue that they're like, I haven't been following for a little bit. Did he have the baby? And I'm like, what are you talking about? But I think the other so I think like that's an easy way to keep things going on Twitch. That's also, it'll be fun for people. And then on YouTube, I'm like, you can make like, you can crap out like a 10-minute video now and then. Like I'll make a video around the birth and be like, hey, you're not going to see so many videos for a bit because we're having a baby. And then, it's pretty easy. Like at the end of the day, a Fall Guys video is like a half hour, the occasional Northernlion tries is really easy. Isaac's really easy. Like again, there will not be a 6-hour period or an 8-hour period where I'm recording all those back to back and getting them all out. But I would say I would be surprised. I'm expecting 0, but I would be surprised if after the first couple of weeks there wasn't like a little drip as we kind of get back into it. The other thing is like, I mean, it's a personal question for you, but like after, you've had your kids, you go to like a separate office and work, and they're being taken care of at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how do I do my content with a baby and not wake them up and shake up the home dynamic? Because I'm like, there's going to be some weird streams where I'm going to be like, stop yelling so much because you're going to make me yell.
No, I mean, I kind of, that question went in a different direction. I mean, I was just going to say, I think you're already in great shape because you have a good, super supportive relationship, both sides with Kate. That's the only way you can do it is, if someone's in your corner, be like, hey, how do we work this out? And that's, it's kind of, that's just all like raising kids is like, either you're on the same team or you're not, or, you figure it out. But,
yeah,
it's definitely helpful too, because the other thing is like when I sometimes like in the early days when Desmond was taking a nap, like I'd go down and record. So it's nice to be able to have that. But this also like it was in the basement, so I didn't worry about waking them up. So maybe I don't know. Is it like, are your walls paper thin?
No, they're pretty good. But we can always just crank the white noise generator.
Yeah, that's I'm thinking about all these tricks that are, get my kids will have that, so turn up the noise. And I'm telling you, man, and a lot of people ask the name of the book, The Difference Maker, the lever. I mean, and I'm not in the business or I really want to preach about parenting. There is a book I always talk about. I never mention the title. I'm going to mention it here because people always ask. There's a book called Baby Wise. It's about like sleep training and one approach. I'm not saying it's the only approach. I can just endorse it 2x, which is, I don't know, I'm not going to ask what you're doing. It's not a public forum, but I'm just saying for me, that was super helpful in terms of like maintaining some normalcy. So it's called Baby Wise. It's on Amazon. It's like $8 or $9. So
also on Audible. Yeah. It's on Audible for 1 credit.
But yeah, no, and I think it'll be interesting, but I think you'll probably find that. I think you'll find that you'll have some time to do some things. And it really comes down to, what you're comfortable with. And like, do you want to not miss out on certain things? But there's some times when you're like, look, like, Kate, I need to pull the ripcord. Like the baby's crying, and sometimes she's the same, and you kind of, pass it around like a basketball. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's where I'm at. Like, I can't imagine, like right now I'm trying to build that foundation that there will be little to nothing, but I can't imagine if I find myself with time that I'm going to be like, I'm just going to do nothing. Because it's going to be, the first couple of weeks, I'll probably have like almost no memory of whatsoever. It's going to go by like so fast, right? But then after that, I'm going to be, it'll be in the back of my mind. It's like, it's time to start maybe getting some stuff going again. And it's not going to be like 1,000, 0, 1,000, it's probably going to be like 1,000. And then like, depending on when it happens, we might have like 10 or 20 videos in the backlog overall. Maybe we do like 1 or 2 a day for a little bit, and then we hit 0 and we got nothing, and then it'll be like maybe we'll get back to 1 or 2 a day, and we'll get there.
So the only other baby question I have for you guys, which I don't want to assume anything, do you guys have a stroller?
We do.
Okay, and I don't know what it's like in Vancouver. I'm just saying, like, that's your golden ticket in the back pocket. If you need to get air, you put, take the baby. It's different now, but like that just just getting out, because you're gonna feel like not like yourself, but just getting outside, like there's a lot of different things that you can do. But I'm excited to go through. I'm sure I'll be remiss. I anticipate that I'll get some like Discord DMs on the back where I'd be like, yo, what do we do, or whatever. Because sometimes you need to not vent but get stuff out. So all right, so we got one more segment we gotta hit here. A new segment. In the lab. So new segment is we're talking about in the lab, something that Ryan and I physically have to execute on since the last episode. We do it, compare notes, and see what happens. So last week in the lab, you were excited about watch parties going global. So we made that our task we had to do. So number one, did you do it? What did you do, and how did it go?
I did it, and it went really well. So mechanically, I looked for stuff almost with the same philosophy I have for Isaac. I was like, I don't want to watch a show where, it's going to have a storyline from episode 1 to episode 10. We got to be there for everything. I want to watch something that's like every episode is like a little dopamine hit, and when it's over, it's over. So I looked for stuff that was available. I was like, Canada, US minimum. It would be nice if it had UK. It's kind of hard to tell if stuff, it's easy to tell if stuff's available in Canada because I just go to my own app. It's easy to tell if stuff's available in America because that's the default. So you just Google, is this on Amazon Prime? Every other country, a little tough to set up. So after Unity on Tuesday, I did a watch party of Total Wipeout, the British Wipeout obstacle course show from like 2009. And I did 2 hour-long episodes. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was fun. I had a great time. Viewership was pretty good. We were at like 3,700 for the first episode and like 3,300 for the second.
Okay.
Which is lower than average, maybe, but at the same time is also to be expected when there's stuff that's region locked and you have to have Prime to begin with to even watch. So it doesn't even, watch parties don't even work on mobile. So anybody that's watching on mobile just gets yeeted. So I think that was actually like viewer interest, I think was high, but the actual amount of people who were able to watch is a little bit lower. But everybody seemed to have a really good time with it for sure. I'm going to do more watch parties in the future, 100%. The only thing I will do in the future is look for Amazon Prime originals. So I have a couple of Amazon Prime originals that I'm like, this looks like it's more in keeping with, the style of content that I want to do, which is mostly making fun of things or at least having a good time with it. So that to me is like, it solves the issue of the region locking. But I know then, I don't condone it, but people were also like, they found the episodes on YouTube and were like syncing it up. And I think that's an indication that is like, people want to see it. Somebody actually found the episode and then like put my commentary into it as well, synced up to it. And I don't condone it, but at the same time,
not condone. Yeah, like
I don't have control over that.
You have no opinion on it. That's fair.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I'm flattered, I guess. That's my opinion on it. So I would say that watch parties for me were a big success. I hope, although I'm not necessarily optimistic, I hope that maybe stuff gets rolled out to more regions reliably. But it's so complicated with TV rights and stuff like that. Like the thing is, we're watching British TV shows. I'm pretty sure that Amazon Canada and the US can buy it for like pennies because nobody's interested in the shows here to begin with. But if you're in the UK where it originally aired on the BBC has the rights to it. They're not going to give it to Amazon. And, it's the same thing. Like we actually have access on Amazon Prime Video Canada to a lot of American reality shows that are not available on Amazon Prime America. So I'm trying to figure out like, man, I need the right balance here because I'd love to watch like a season of Flavor of Love or something.
Did you plan on doing 2 hours or did hour 1 go so well? You're like, oh, let me do hour 2.
I was like, hour 1 went well. And then people were like, one more. And I was like, fine, we'll do one more.
Is there anything about it, like, so outside of like the region lock stuff out of your control, is there anything you didn't like about it for you in your input you can add? What did you not like about it and things you could control on your side?
I hate that the VOD is just your face. I know, like, I don't know what you can really do about it. And I also wish, like, and I know I can do this in OBS with the plugin or something, but I wish there was like kind of like an on-screen timer
Mm.
that so people that are watching, if they pause to go to the, I don't know why they would pause and then skip ahead, but you know what I mean. It's just an easy way to keep it synced up for VODs that was like, hey, at the bottom, you know, we're 23 minutes out of 45 minutes or something like that.
Got it.
But apart from that, it's mostly region stuff. And then also, like, I mean, I do still feel bad for the chunk of the audience that's like, you know, this isn't available in my country, but I have Prime. That sucks. And then the other one is like, they don't even sell Prime in my country. That sucks pretty bad too. So it does suck, but I think hopefully these are like the first growing pains. And you know, I don't want to be braggadocious, but last week I was like, I think watch parties are going to have a bigger impact on the industry than a lot of people think. Wouldn't you know it? Like Sunday, Hafu has like 35,000 or 40,000 people watching The Boys with her as part of a sponsored deal.
Yeah.
And then I was on Twitch like yesterday or 2 days ago, and Naomi Kyle, who used to work at IGN, was doing a watch party, but it wasn't even through Watch Party. It was like a CBS All Access Star Trek marathon. And I'm like, and she had like 15,000 viewers. And I'm like, dude, I think so. The idea is like watch parties are like a proof of concept that you can use through the app, but then also secondarily, maybe some other studios or distribution platforms are like, hey, we could give the files to somebody, give them the rights to stream it, and like do a sponsored deal that way. That's really cool.
So you've been blowing that horn, saying like this is something that's coming. You know what this kind of sounds like a little bit? It sounds like Twitch. Like, why would anyone watch someone? I mean, you may have said this. Why would anyone watch someone play video games? It's absurd. Fast forward 5 years later, everyone's doing it. You know, like NBA players. You know, so like I'm with you on that. But you got it on Ink last week, and I think that's you know, like imagine like you could think of anything. Imagine watching Survivor with Jeff Probst. You know, on twitch.tv/Probst or what. You know what I mean, or whoever. Like I'm with you on that, and I think I'm taking it like a little bit more serious. Because on my end, I don't think it went great, and I'll tell you why. One thing I did the homework as well. We did one episode of Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? And so the first thing I reverse engineered. I'm like, okay, let me find something that says broadly available. I'm like, there isn't like a whole lot. Like I found some bloopers and stuff that I still think will be funny that we can try to do. But you came in and you're like, just do something that's not forehead. So I'm like, all right, we'll do it. So immediately, like it definitely like yeeted some of the audience. But the second thing was like, and this is just granular, I didn't like Jeff Foxworthy. I'm like, he's being rude and mean, like to all these people. I'm like, they're out here, like they're already embarrassed enough. They're trying to outsmart fifth graders. Then he's just pouring it on. It's like what you say, like punching down. But what I learned from that is that, I mean, there was like people were calling for one more. I'm like, and that's not the first time that happened. Back when we did Survivor, it kind of has that like appeal. But I think to me, it just came down to selection, right? I think I poorly selected, but learning from you here, I think sticking in the Prime library is a slam dunk, you know, whether it's just a matter of like sifting through and finding the best one, because it limits the downside, right? You know, it's just, that's the one thing we can control is that downside. So I think that's something interested in, definitely something I want to do more of. And I think it's kind of like, you know, I just go back to TikTok, like the first couple of TikToks, I didn't know what the heck I was doing, you know, and I feel like we hit something with the Survivor, like doing the watch party for Survivor, because I can bring some value to that. But I still think I'm with you. I feel like no one's doing it. I feel like we're still trying to figure it out. But the thing I'm going to take from this is sticking to the Amazon Prime library, and I'm going to give it another crack. Is there any situation in which you would do something that isn't Isaac-y, meaning like, you know, one-off dopamine?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, it's kind of one-off still, but rather than watching like, you know, Fear Factor or Total Wipeout, I think I could watch like a movie. Like I would love to, and again, it's the rights that are the biggest problem. Amazon Prime Video, and I apologize to the team if they're hearing this, but like one of the reasons that I love it and recommend it is it has such a wide selection of absolutely terrible movies, which is awesome. Like, it's actually great. So if I can find, and there's hundreds minimum, if I can find the dozens that are Canada, US, UK, and everything else would be awesome. Obviously, I apologize if you live in, you know, like Norway and you're like, it's not here. It's just, these are the growing pains of the platform, honestly. But if I could find like the three of those, or the ones that fit in those three countries, and do like a so bad it's good kind of watch party, I would be super stoked. And the other thing, and this ties into what we were talking about earlier, is I think that watch parties are like something that Kate and I have talked about as like an easy content fit when the baby is super young. Because, you know, when you're playing a game, you get both hands around the controller, your mind is fully occupied, you're trying to read chat simultaneously. But the idea, you know, that you could put on a show and you could have like the bassinet beside you, and then if the baby starts crying, you can just mute your mic for a little bit and, you know, soothe the baby, make sure everything's good, and then come back. And, you know, I'm not going to say that it's going to be the greatest content ever produced, but it's something that's a little bit easier to do than you know, than playing, you know, PUBG while, you know, your newborn's crying beside you. And I think, like, I don't think this is going to be like, this is going to change Twitch forever. Like, I don't think it's going to eclipse the gaming part of Twitch, but I 100% agree with what you said, where it's like, you know, I think people, if you propose the idea fully formed 15 years ago, people would have been like, there's a website where like 50,000 people watch this one dude play a video game. Like, that seems insane. But people, you know, back then, you would watch your friends play games. You would like trade off the controllers. You would watch TV with your friends and like make fun of what's happening on the screen all the time. I feel like it's a really natural kind of transition into that. And man, oh man, oh, if they could, it's on Netflix. Unfortunately, they could get some of the Jeopardy library. Oh my God. I would do like 8 hours, maybe not 8 hours. I would do like 8 episodes of Jeopardy a day. Oh my God.
When you do that, if you haven't thought about this already, when it comes around, because I have a feeling it'll come around, just get yourself a mini whiteboard, be like you're actually in it, and just see if you got it. And then you send that to Jeopardy and be like, I am who you think I am. Last thing on watch parties is, so this is tactical. Is there a website that you found that's like really good for cross-checking? Or you literally just Google each title, hey?
I just Google like is blank on Amazon Prime, and then the website that pops up lets me check if it's in America.
Okay.
And then I just cross-reference it with like my own Prime Video account.
Okay.
But apart from that, I don't know. I really wish, like, instead of broadly available, you know, I'm not trying to, you know, there's wrenches in chat that are enjoying their lunch break or something, but I'm like, that it would be really nice as an interface thing from the creator side to get like a little table that's like, you know, this is available in the US, it's not in Canada, it's not in the UK, it is in Australia, it's in New Zealand, it's not in Germany. You know, like just something like that would be sick.
So to come full circle, just clip that from Ryan, and that's like, and if you didn't know and if you struggle with it, that's like a way to provide feedback that is not offensive and not shredding, you know, the house.
I don't understand why they don't have this. It's just a table. It's not hard.
But let me ask this, and this is something I've never done before, but I feel like sometimes, like, you can drill me with some good advice unprovoked, but I want to provoke you and say, all right, hey, like, if you're me and you're like, Dan, do this watch party, you think it will do well? What, like, based on what you've done? Because I like, this is something I don't know. Like, I feel like you've got a better dial for this than me.
Oh, dude, it's 100%. Like, I think I know what I want to see everybody on Twitch do watch parties of. Okay. For you, I want to see you watch stuff that is a little bit quote unquote minkus, so makes you slightly uncomfortable. Like, I think Fear Factor would be awesome to watch people like lay in a pit of snakes or something like that. Or like kind of trashy VH1 reality shows. Like the idea, like if you could watch Rock of Love, where Bret Michaels tries to, you know, find his 6th wife or something like that, and like analyze the gameplay of the players as they're going, I think that would be amazing. And then for like Malf, I'm like, dude, I want Malf to watch like public access cooking shows all day. I would watch it like I would never stop watching it. It would be incredible.
That's pretty good, man. There, you're good. I think you may be right now, as of right now, you may be the world's most premier expert in Twitch watch parties in terms of consulting right now. I don't know if anyone's doing it better than you right now.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Speaking of doing it better, thank you to we're gonna wrap up, take a few Q&A questions, so spam us live in the Twitch chat. Also, while we're wrapping stuff up here, thank you for the 480 ratings on iTunes. We're getting close to the 500 before Ryan Gary goes. I don't have it written down in front of me. Do we have your last date, just to let people know?
You know what? If you handle a question, I think you know what? I cannot search because we have the video. No, okay. I can search.
I think we have at least one more, right? I think next week, maybe the finale.
Okay, hold on.
While he's doing that, I'm going to answer the first question. So this one is okay, good. So this is from, I'll answer this one. This is from Arusis77. Says, do you adjust your content when you work with other YouTubers and streamers outside of your circle? And who do you want to just sit down and play a game with? So I can answer that question. An example of it this past weekend, I don't stream on Sundays, but it was a cool event. Like, yeah, it's like, I got to give something up. I'm going to give up family time. So, I just kind of like weigh that out. But yeah, so that's definitely because, you can't expect someone to work around your clock for the most part. And then says, who do I just want to sit down and play a game with? I don't know. I don't really. Tony Hawk is the first game that I've wanted to sit down and play off camera, get better at. You need me to answer that one, or are you good?
Yeah. Okay. So no, it's the September 17th. So next show would be my last show, just to give us a little buffer.
Okay.
Because right now we're in like threat level yellow, but like
tomorrow,
the closer you get, like 1 week from now, we're in like okay.
So next week will be orange. Just a heads up, if you're listening right now. After the show will continue to go on, we'll just have a different guest each week, and it's going to be same format. We're going to put them, we'll do everything but put them in the lab. Speaking of, while we're taking a few more questions, anything you want to execute on, anything you've learned in the past week, like, oh, it'd be cool to do this.
I default to you first.
Okay. I'm trying to think of doing something that will not create a tremendous amount of work for you. Okay. One thing that I'm going to hit you with that I think's worked well, but I'd like to aggregate it a little bit, is at the end of your next do it once in the next week at the end of your Twitch show, take your best clip, download it, put it on Twitter, and just see how that performs as opposed to, hey, thanks for watching.
Okay.
Fair? And then we'll compare
that
notes
seems
on
fine.
That. So in the lab,
that's very easy.
Yeah, because I didn't want to hit you with like, come up with a 10-part Doki Doki Part 2 series and report back. All right, last question before we go. This, I think, and this is directed at you, then we'll get out of here after this one. It says Snails and Slugs and Automobiles. Says Ryan Gary, any solid plans in place to hire someone behind the scenes like Daniel?
No, still no.
Okay.
I mean, it's just at the end of the day, again, I don't want anyone else having access to the back end. I would do what you're doing with TikTok. I would have a buffer, like an air gap, where they work on content and then I put it up. But I would definitely not the situation where like I send somebody MP4s and they put them up on the channel. Okay. I definitely would not do that. And then like it's the same thing, like with the economics of it right now are still like, we'll figure it out. But people are like, have you considered hiring the editors and giving them a cut of the ad revenue? I'm like, yeah, sure. Thanks for the 20 hours of work. Here's $11, like it's just a weird kind of it's not I think people have the perception that's like, oh, you're probably making like $1,000 per video, so I mean if you just split it with them down the middle, then that's a win-win for everybody. And I'm like, it's not a win-win for everybody. It's like we're both just taking small L's.
We got one more. This is a good one. This one is from Hulkengard. James Josie, we'll answer that one when Ryan's gone. Hulkengard says, does community engagement ever get too high to the point where it's annoying? I'll let you take that one.
Oh yeah. Like, and not even in like a nagging way, but I was thinking about it, and I talked about it in like a Trackmania episode. One of the reasons I'm excited for a little bit of a clean break is that for like a decade, when you're a YouTuber, a streamer, you're kind of like always the YouTuber and the streamer, you know? And it's a great job. Don't get me wrong. I love it. If I didn't, I couldn't have done it as long as I have with the output that I have. But at the same time, you know, you finish your work at like 7 or 8 p.m. and then you're getting ready for bed and you look at your tweets and you get a tweet that's like, hey, NL, did you know like in this episode you did this and you should have done this? And like, you're like, I get it. You live in like, you know, Tasmania or something, and you're like waking up and watching the episode. But for you, it's like that picture of like Ben Affleck smoking a cigarette on his front step, just looking like disheveled. You're like, I just don't get a period of time consistently where I'm like not on call as a YouTuber, streamer, content creator. So definitely and it's not even, again, it's not like, oh, there's too much chatting, oh, there's toxicity, oh, there's, you know, blah blah blah, there's too many memes. It's like, it's just the fact that you exist 100% as like this online avatar instead of a human being, which is what I'm excited to have a little bit of a break from, because I think it's a necessary part of the job that's not changing ever, but it is also going to be nice to have some balance as well.
When you talked about the Ben Affleck meme of him smoking a cigarette like on the back porch or whatever, someone just texted me that meme which says when you hear the kid dump out the toy box, because that's what it is. You're like, oh man. But on my end, real quick, no, I'm kind of the inverse, and I guess the only time like the engagement, like if someone tweet me today, hey, like I'd love to see Tony Hawk, or hey, like do this, like I love that, because to me that's like I don't get a ton of that. But on the flip side right now, just through the environment we're in, I get a ton of like Big Brother stuff that I have nothing to do with. I'm not competing. It has nothing
openly
to do with
toxic.
gameplay. Yeah, I'm like,
yeah.
I could do without that. But like, if someone, and it's not Big Brother stuff, it's that kind of Big Brother stuff. But if someone was like, hey, what do you think about the move to do this and do this? I'm like, cool, yeah, let's talk about it. But if you're like, hey, what did you think about? Oh, the
how
way
do you
this
answer
person,
for? Hey, this person said X on the feeds. How do you respond?
Yeah, this person looked at this person the wrong way. Yeah, like. What do you want me to say? It just, so I'd say that's the only thing. But you know, I guess you could maybe you can't really tie the equation to like missing a rock tinted to that, but just like stuff I don't really have anything to do with. But you know, I get it. I don't get, honestly. Here's what I've done, and this will be the last thing before we wrap it. Is like, because we've talked about a couple weeks ago about like the aggressive messages I've been getting, and I do two things. I either respond and say, hey, have a great day, or in my head, I just mute them and I don't block them. The reason I don't block them is because then it's like, oh, I got him. Got him. So I'm like, you mute him. They're like, hey, he's not seeing any of my messages, or why isn't he responding? I'm like, I don't see him. All right.
People, they use it as like a badge in their profile. Yeah. They'll be like, blocked by this person, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's wise. I think it's wise.
So, and that's what I think. Like when you see that, you're like, oh, I got blocked by Northernlion. Like, I'm not giving you that. You know where you can go? You can go where I can't hear you. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of Check the Wire. We'll be back live for Ryan Gary's finale, unless he moves into the red zone. Next week, Tuesdays at 6 a.m. audio premieres. Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern will be the last live show if you like to watch it live. The show will continue. The podcast will continue. We'll keep it going while Ryan Gary is gone. And so don't worry about that. We'll keep the seat warm for him when he's ready to get back. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for supporting the show. We got 480 reviews on iTunes. We talked about an appropriate ask. I'm asking right now, if you're on Twitch, if you're listening in your headphones and you haven't left a review on iTunes, what better way to send Ryan Gary into dadhood than hitting him with the 500 reviews? Why? I don't know. It's an arbitrary number. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time.